In 2024, I launched a podcast, posted over 200 plus times on social media, launched an app for our company, generated over 350K in gross sales. My name is Eric Libby, and I love helping business owners or those aspiring to become entrepreneurs. And in this video, I'm going to share the 5 changes I made from 23 to 24 and what I'm going to be taking into my 2025 year. So the first adjustment that I made in 2024 was the elimination of my morning routine. Why I did this, and it may sound kind of crazy, but why I did this was in 2023, my morning routine was from 5 a.m. to 8 a.m., 3 hours of time. So I'd get up, I would go and do a little stretching, then I'd go read the Bible, then I'd go read a book, and then I'd go work out, then I'd take a sauna, take a shower, and then be ready for the day. It took me 3 hours. And there was a business entrepreneur podcaster named Alex Hormozi. Highly recommend checking him out if you do not know who that is. But he goes on the nth degree to the other direction. He says completely eliminate your morning routine. So I was thinking, I was like, well, I'm doing 3 hours right now. He says just get up and work, because then in theory, you'd have 3 extra hours to work. I was like, okay, let me try and have some sort of balance in between the two. And so from 3 hours, I took it down to about an hour and 15 minutes. Instead of waking up and doing a 3-hour routine, I'll wake up and just do a little reflection when I wake up, a little journal, a few minutes of Bible reading, and then go into a workout. It'll be about an hour 15, hour 30, so cutting that down significantly, which then freed me up for another hour and a half, a bit like a nice chunk of a deep work block that I can get in and really focus my time. And I think the reason I did this in 23 was I was just graduating from Stetson University. I was fresh into my business as a full-time entrepreneur. At the time at school, I was kind of half with school, half as an entrepreneur, but I now transitioned fully into entrepreneurship. And so I was like, all right, I want to try and maximize, I want to do everything right. I got caught up in focusing on the actual routine rather than the actual working on the business side. But there's an interesting takeaway. The reason I think Alex suggests this is we are so fixated on the routine itself that if we mess up the routine, then we almost have this truth we speak over ourselves that if my routine is messed up, then I'm not going to have an effective day. And from my experience, I absolutely had this experience because I'd get to a day where there'd be 3 hours, basically focused 3 hours, but I only had 2. And so I'm like, okay, well, I didn't do my workout or I didn't have time to read. My day is messed up. So I get maybe a few hours into the day and then things aren't going right. And then my immediate association is because things aren't going right. Things are not going right. Because of that, it was the morning routine that was not where it should have been. So ultimately, it's like this lie that we speak over ourselves. So that's what he's trying to, I believe, eliminate is you don't need a morning routine. Like if you need to do that stuff, great, but try not to have the truth that you need this to do your work. Like get up, go work. You have extra hours in the day. So the biggest thing that it adjusted for 2024 is it gave me more free time. Second point is early wake up time. So previously I was waking up at 5 a.m. And I think at the time, at the end of 2023, I read the book Steve Jobs, the biography by Walter Isaacson. And I started to really go deeper into Apple. Personally, I love Steve Jobs, one of my idols, icons, like business moguls, entrepreneurs that I look up to. Just his passion for innovation, creation, I think is really inspiring. Looking at Apple, and then of course I saw Tim Cook, and now he's the CEO of Apple. And I saw some of the activities that he was doing. He was waking up at 3:45 a.m. I was like, kind of saw that. And I was like, I think that'd be an interesting challenge. So what I did for this upcoming year, from going from 23 to 24, I planned, I was like, I'm going to start waking up at 3:45 a.m. And what it did is it freed up even more time. So instead of having that long routine, instead of waking up at 5, now I've gotten it down to I can start work at 5 a.m. or I can start work at 5:30 a.m. and I'm ready to go and I have the energy to do it. The problem with that is what I was not doing is I wasn't sleeping earlier into the evening. So I'd still go to bed at a similar time, just waking up earlier. And so my sleep went from like a 7-hour, 30-minute down to like 6 or even less in some cases because I'd stay up later and then I'd push myself. So it was like this cycle that I was trying to wake up super early, but I wasn't actually going to bed on time. So that was critical. It's a good lesson because the earlier I got up, now I can by 12 o'clock, I can almost get a full workday done and I still have more time during the day. Just take a jump on it. And 2, another thing that's great about those early hours is they're uninterrupted. So from about 5:30 to about 7:30, I had about 2 hours of time where I was interrupted. I could really focus, deep work. I didn't have to get back to emails, messages, get incoming calls. I just really focus on what I needed to get done for the day. The third one is working on the business instead of in the business. And this has been a really tough concept for me to learn. But in 2023, I had a mentor that said, Eric, you need to pull your head up, stop putting your head down and just going. That's great. That's good work ethic for doing that. But you're not going to be a leader that way. You're not going to be able to grow your company that way. And so I had to really focus on delegation and things that I would previously handle. I'd have to give off some of these other responsibilities so that I could free up more of my time. On that, there's a great resource. And if you're an entrepreneur just starting out, there's this book called E-Myth Revisited. Highly recommend reading that book. It's when you first go into a business, you think the passion, say you're passionate about baking, you think it's the business is about baking, but then you realize you have the finance, you have the accounting, you have the hiring, all this stuff. And in a lot of businesses, the same. You just have the widget at the bottom, the product or service that you're selling. That's really the difference. But you realize as a business owner, you have to like quickly scale out of that. You can still be the visionary and innovate, but in a lot of cases, businesses are the same, and you're going to have to actually step out if you want to scale the company. So one of the things that I really had to focus on for this year. The fourth is obsession with goal setting. So in 2022, we started implementing this system called the EOS, which is the Entrepreneurial Operating System by Gino Wickman. It's this book called Traction. And they have this idea of, well, there's a lot of other great stuff in there. This isn't the only thing it's about, but they have how to set proper goals by using a scorecard and then a thing called rocks. And so scorecard is the measurables to see almost a pulse on your business. How are things going? Is the revenue up? Is the cash on hand up or is it down? Customer acquisition costs up or down? It's the numbers behind the business. Then you have the rocks, which are the key priorities for the quarter. Like by the end of the quarter, by the end of the year, by the end of the 3 years, what are the things that you actually want to get done? So we implemented this in 2022. And I have to say at the beginning, we were awful, like terrible. It was some of these goals we were setting, we would get to the end of a quarter and we'd be working all quarter on it, focus. We get there. And then the question would be, did we hit the goal? Not because we saw the numbers and said, okay, how close did we actually come? It was, we didn't know. We got to the end of a quarter and we just simply didn't know. It was too gray. Like for example, say improve onboarding system, right? So if that's your goal, I want to improve the onboarding system. What does that mean, right? Now it would be automate the system and create a quiz for the new hire, just an example, right? Or say for your personal life, and this is something that I could use for a personal goal that I wanted to set. If it was get in shape, what does that mean, right? What does that tactically, how can you take steps to do that? Is that walking 1 minute a day? Is that lifting weights? Like it's so vague, and that's what we're doing in 2022. 23, we got better, but 24, we really started to hit our stride and get better at actually goal setting. So I'll come back to that personal example just to close the loop, is instead of saying, I want to get in shape, it's working out 5 times a week for 30 minutes for each time throughout the entire quarter. It's just an example. You want to be very specific. If you don't know how you're going to win, then once you actually hit that goal, it's just not going to be encouraging. You're not going to reinforce the loop. It's like, okay, I worked all this time. Now I need a reward. I want to see like, okay, was there progress made? And if you can't see that, or you don't know who you're moving towards, you're going to quickly get distracted. And that's happened to me multiple times where it's not specific and then I don't know what to do. And then I kind of pause. But if it is specific, I know how to run towards the final goal. Number 5 was documentation. The value of actually putting systems and processes in place. And so that kind of almost in a sense piggybacks off of the third point that I mentioned, is when you are scaling out of your business, you're going to have to document. When you want to work on your business, you're going to have to put the expectations in place for whoever, even if it's yourself, but whoever is going to operate that system. So the more and more you do something, you'll get an understanding of how it should be done for it to be good work. Like usually when you start maybe a new endeavor, like if we're going to start, example, posting on social media, and we post maybe 5 posts and we don't really know what we're doing yet. The more you do it, you get to 10 or 20 or 50. And I'm experiencing this with the podcast that I launched right now too, is we're getting up in the episodes. This will be episode 16, I believe. And now I'm starting to put a checklist process together. So the checklist does is now every time the things that I was like, oh, okay, I need to create a thumbnail. Oh, okay, I need to write notes before the show. Oh, okay, I need to get a picture from the guest, right? So all these things that go into the checklist. And now either you can do it and you can keep that consistency every time, or if you pass it on to somebody else, they can do it. They know the expectations, and you can set, if it's clear enough, you can set and delegate. So give them the expectation, then come back to it and make sure, okay, was this done as expected? Was there an issue? Then you can see, did they follow the process that was in place? So that was a big learning for 2024. Now, as we move into the second part of this podcast video here into 2025, there are 4 things that I'm going to be adjusting that I'm already prepping for as we close out this year. So number 1 is setting a VTO for my personal life. And I explained what the Traction EOS system is for business. Never really done it for my personal life. And so I went through the whole routine. If you are familiar with that process, you go your core focus, you go and put a niche in there. You have your core values, your 10-year, your 3-year, your 1-year plan. What are you going to be doing this quarter? Your scorecard. I created one for my entire life for my personal. So I set a personal mission statement, set 5 core values for myself, set some goals, 10, 20. I actually set a few 25-year goals, like really like moonshot goals that are pretty far out there. But I created in a Notion document. I also recommend that software if you are looking for like a note-taking or a way to kind of have your thoughts all in one place. But I use Notion, and I put a table together with all that information. And so now when I go back and it's one of the main folders in my Notion dashboard is I can go and look at all this stuff. Like, okay, what did I say my 10-year goal was? And if I know what my 10-year goal was, then let's create a 3-year goal that can get me closer to that 10-year goal. Let's create a 1-year goal that can get me closer to that 3-year, quarterly closer to the 1 year. And it's all works backwards. Number 2 is having aggressive business growth. So off of point 3 and 5 that I mentioned as my takeaways for 2024, we was starting to work more on the business in documentation. And so now that I'm able to do that and focus more on the growth of the company, we are planning for aggressive growth. And so in quarter 2 this year, we're going to be launching into a new city, St. Augustine or Jacksonville. We're going to start hiring for that position here pretty soon. But it's starting to think of how can we grow at a quicker pace. We have the team set. We have a clear vision of what those next quarters, the next year, 3 years look like. And now our team is pumped and excited to go run at that. So putting the systems in place, making sure that our scorecard for personal, but also business side is set and ready to go. So that's going to be an adjustment this year, is like really running hard at some of those goals, trying to push myself more than I really ever have before in my life, which I'm excited about. This will be a new challenge for 2025. The third one is a vision board that I created. So this is on my personal side. And what I did in my room is I have a big whiteboard on my wall, and then I have a smaller whiteboard right next to it. So on my big whiteboard, basically what I mentioned with Notion, I drew everything out on this big whiteboard. And so I put my mission statement, core values. I put a few quotes on there that I like. I put then my business goals, personal goals, and it's all there. And I'm going to be able to see it every day. And there was a meeting that I went to here locally in Palm Coast a little bit ago. It was Jeff Hoffman, and he's a philanthropist, business owner. He started multiple companies. And one of the things that he talked about for trying to remember his goals and trying to work towards something is the value of writing it down and putting it in front of you. So I've heard people say, put it in front of your bedside. He put it on his, whatever he was working on, he'd put it on a little note card and put it on his mirror in the morning. So when he's getting ready, he'd see that every morning. And so there's such a value in knowing where you're trying to go. Because again, we get so distracted as people. We forget where we're trying to march to. But if we have that clear end goal, then the path isn't going to be, we're not going to be taking hard left, hard right. We're going the wrong way. We're going to have, we may make mistakes, and that's great. Like, failing is really good because you take the scars to your next thing. You realize, I'm never going to do that again. But if you kind of know where you're trying to go, then it's like you can take calculated risk. You can take calculated mistakes if you know where you're trying to go rather than all over the place and you forget. So that was another adjustment, is having a vision board. I can see all of my goals, and then I have my quarters, my quarterly rocks for my personal, and then also my scorecard metrics I'm tracking on a weekly basis. And the final and fourth one that I learned for 2024 that I'm bringing 100% to 25 is calendar management. And I've just realized that you are so much more, I am so much more productive when I am scheduling the stuff into my calendar before the week even happens. And I truly think that there's so many that just go into a week and think, I don't know what I'm going to do. I mean, maybe I have a general idea, but it's just kind of up in the air. I'm going to work on one thing and work on another. And I mean, honestly, it's okay. It's like most people are doing that. But I just realized that there is so much extra effort that I can give and focused attention that I can give when I schedule it into my day and actually focus on that. And things will adjust for sure. Being malleable enough to adjust, like have a plan and try and stick to the plan. But if something that just is crazy happens you cannot predict, then you have to move calendar items around. But having the thought of, let's schedule this in so I can actually focus on where I'm trying to go. So those are the 4 things that I'm gonna get better at for this next year. But I'm so excited. 2024 was an awesome year where I think I pushed myself to a level that I haven't seen before. And I know I'll look back, as I did on 23 and laughed at my 23 year, I'll look back at this upcoming year and laugh at who I thought I was in 2024, consistently be humbled. My ego will continuously be humbled. So I'm really excited about 25. There's a lot of exciting things that I have for you all. I hope you crush it. I hope you achieve all the goals that you set for yourself coming this upcoming year. Just remember, it's staying consistent, taking action, keep moving forward. Even when we get down, we're going to bounce back. It's just remaining focused. So with that, enjoy the year and let's make it happen.